Now, how many of you are thinking of actually trying this? Oh, quite a few. What do you think we need to do before this? There's a couple things I've had in mind. I want to see if anybody comes up with them. Before we start cleansing, what do we need to do to get ready, besides come up with a menu and buy the food? Any ideas?
Clear out all the junk.
Yeah, clear out of your junk out of your refrigerator. Anything that's rotting. There's usually something in my refrigerator on the edge. What about washing? It takes me forever. Now, Dor suggested we have a prep ahead meeting on Sunday, and I've been resisting that a little bit because I'm trying to imagine 8 people in my house at my one sink trying to wash all their veggies. And I think it would take several hours because it takes me a long time, like cilantro, just for example. There's lots of ways to store it. They store it here by keeping it wet all the time. When I bring it home, I need to wash it, sometimes as many as 3 times until there's no grit, because you definitely don't want grit in your greens. But gently. You don't want to shake all that stuff off the outside of the leaves. You want to like gently submerge it, maybe soak it a little bit, get it out, and then I run it through a salad spinner to dry it, and then I seal it in something. Either a crisper, I've got a big plastic crisper, I've got some glass containers, and when I'm really desperate, I use Ziploc bags. Environment, forgive me. So anyway, that washing process is to me the longest, most arduous part. Actually making the smoothie or the salad isn't so bad. Tearing the lettuce only takes a few minutes, but washing the lettuce, that's the thing. So if you want to make this work, get your veggies, wash them right after you get them, and store them.
For the whole week?
No, only for, you have to do this every 2-3 days. In my experience, now some things like cilantro and parsley might keep all week, but a lot of greens won't keep. So you're going to need to shop every 2-3 days, at least for some items. Even avocados, if you're going to incorporate avocados, if you want to go completely oil-free, you would not have avocados, even though they're wonderful. But they do have a lot of cholesterol and oil in them, so depending on how purist you want to be, you might or might not include them. Avocados won't keep long in my house. Mangoes won't keep long. Even tomatoes ripen up in 2 or 3 days on my counter. So you're going to have to plan your menus for about 2 or 3 days at a time, do your shopping, and I recommend that you do that washing early. If you do the washing early, in my experience, I am 10 times more likely to actually use that food than if I don't wash it. It's like going into a kitchen where the dishes are dirty. Are you going to cook if the dishes are already dirty and you have to wash dishes first? No. Are you going to prepare your smoothie if you have to first wash all the greens? Maybe not. Maybe not if you're tired after a day of work. So to give yourself the best possible chance, you want to allot time in your week in advance. Can anybody think of other things that might help us?
Cancel any dinner or lunch.
Yes, canceling eating out. Or maybe cancel other social engagements, because he points out that we may need more rest. And I can tell you from experience that a number of side effects can come up anytime you change your diet. Have people experienced this?
Oh, yeah.
What kinds? What kinds of things can happen?
Fatigue, nausea, brain fog, unhappiness, craving. Anybody else? Come on.
Migraines, constipation,
Oh, yeah.
lack of sleep, nervousness, you name it.
Do people do enemas before this?
What is animus? I don't know.
Coffee enema?
Oh, enema. No, he doesn't do anything like that. But if the spirit moves you to do whatever, we're biologically unique individuals. We can do whatever. And remember, it was once a huge trend to do colonic cleanses. Yeah. That was like the thing. But I would never do that. I had to have a colonoscopy once. This is a little, while we're on the subject of poo. And I did not digest my food well for a year afterwards, because whatever they gave me to clean myself out really made my body mad. So I did the colonoscopy, but I don't know if I'll ever do another one because was it worth it? And I complained to the doctor later, and he was completely, unsympathetic. As far as I'm concerned, that colonoscopy was not without harm. It harmed me. I had good digestion. I was on a roll. My skin was good. That colonoscopy, I was sick for months afterwards. So if colon cleanses help you, and they may help some people, but for me, I think I need the opposite. I need to be building up things in some natural way rather than stripping everything out. So each to their own. But yeah, you can get diarrhea is very common, especially if you start doing a lot of smoothies. Your body may decide to discharge a lot of crap. Well, I'm just going to talk about elimination for a minute. Because I don't want you to think you're dying and panic and stop. Diarrhea won't hurt you if you get enough liquids. So keep those liquids going in if that happens to you. And you feel better afterwards because that's a natural kind of discharge. But worse than diarrhea would be, and this has happened to me sometimes with dietary changes, would be constipation, because then you get the bloating and you get cold and you get sluggish. But as many liquids as you're putting in your body, that can't last long. So just be patient if that happens, and take a walk. That's one of the best things. Take a good morning walk. Provide a little extra time. Warn your family and friends that you need more rest during the days that you're cleansing. I'm committed to do this fully for 2 or 3 days, and if I'm feeling well enough at the end, I'm going to go for a week. And then we'll see. I don't know if I can really envision myself doing it for 28 days, as he suggests would be the maximum. But how many have done one of these before? Surely somebody here. Dina, can we hear a testimonial on how it went?
I didn't have any problem, but I didn't do it myself with help. I went to a place in Texas, in Austin, Texas, Optimum Health or something like that, and that's all they fed you, fresh vegetables and fresh fruit.
So someone did all the work for you.
I didn't have to worry about it. I didn't have to.
And how did you feel?
Amazing. Perfect. Wonderful.
And I saw another hand or two. Pat?
Deborah.
Sorry. Hunsinger. Deborah.
Yes, well, I couldn't conceive a child, and I wanted a baby so badly. It was my early 30s. And my husband saw, in a bookstore, he saw something that said, if you go on an orange juice fast for a week, you can conceive. And I had seen it like years before. So both of us drank nothing but orange juice for 8 days. We did an enema every night. At the end of the week, we did a colonic irrigation with 50 pounds of water going through our colon, coming out at the same time with a trained colonic specialist, and I got pregnant.
Well, I better not get pregnant from this. All right, now we're on a roll. Who else has a testimony? I want to hear these. This is good. Anybody else?
I did the colon cleanse using apple juice and beta, the clay.
Oh, bentonite clay.
Bentonite clay, yeah. So I think I had the bentonite clay mixed with the apple juice at the end of the day before I went to bed. But during the day, I just had apple juice, fresh apple juice, followed by 2 large glasses of water. I don't remember all the details, but I know I didn't eat for about 7 days. It was just apple juice and
Wow.
the bentonite clay at night, and so you're
Wow.
producing a lot of interesting formations.
Any other testimonials about cleanse efforts in the past? Okay, well, I've never tried one.
Well,
And
there is a lemonade diet, which I
yeah,
a few times. You're familiar with it?
yeah, elimination diets.
But
This,
it's not recommended, I understand.
Well, this is a form of elimination diets. We're eliminating a lot of things: dairy, meat, salt, oil.
Elimination is cleansing.
Yeah.
Lemonade diet.
Oh, right.
Lemonade diet is more about cleansing.
Cleansing. Well, all these liquids, I have experimented enough to know this is definitely going to flush things through. If you use this mini smoothied things, you're going to get a lot more liquid than most people get normally into their intestines. And so you're going to feel some good or bad effects from that. And I'm not sure what they're going to be, so I'm going to be very interested.
I have a question about
Yes.
this cleanse for people at risk for diabetes.
Yes.
Because it's really high in fruit. Does the
Oh, if you have, or if anyone you know has diabetes, I would be very careful on the fruit business. But surely there are enough vegetables here that you could do it. I don't know what special needs might come up. I wish I could help more with that.
but the books don't speak?
He doesn't speak to diabetes. Well, he talks about diabetes too. And quite a few people feel that diabetes 2, including the macrobiotic community, strongly claims that diabetes 2, the kind that's controlled by food, can be cured literally by food. And this is something that medical science does not endorse yet. So
But things
Yeah.
like dates and orange juice.
I would leave those things out. If I were diabetic, rather than risk any sort of sugar overrun, bananas, the things with lots of fruits. There might be, yeah,
Could I insert
sure.
something here? If there's someone with diabetes who's interested in a raw vegan approach to curing, there have even been cures of type, and I mean cures documented, of type 1 diabetes and lots of turnarounds of type 2. The go-to guy for that is named Gabriel Cousens, and his website is Tree of Life. And he's written several books on how to reverse diabetes and other diseases. He's got a great video called, I think it's called Living Raw. And he's a medical doctor trained at Harvard. He's documented this, that you can actually turn around diabetes. And the way they do it is incrementally. So in the first phase of it, it is maybe kale and dandelion greens and jicama, and then you progress through it, and then as your insulin needs go down, your numbers start coming down, they introduce more fruits and so forth, and in like 30 or 40 days, adhering very closely to his program of 100% living foods, they almost universally reverse type 2 diabetes. They've gotten a vast reduction of insulin on type 1, and they've even had a couple of cures. Cures meaning if you eat this way forever, it won't express, which is not the same as a cure, but that's how they talk about it. What is his
Yeah.
name? Gabriel Cousens. I think it's Cousens, Tree of Life, and he's in Arizona.
Yeah. And definitely if you're diabetic, definitely test, because that's the only way to know how you're doing. Make your best guess. I mean, some fruits are less overwhelmingly sweet than others. Raspberries don't seem too bad. I personally don't love like icky sweet fruits. I don't have the kind of sweet tooth some people have, and like even too many bananas make me feel.
I'm not having bananas.
Right.
No dates.
So yeah, it's funny now. Should you just? My macrobiotic counselor once made Denny Waxman. Some of you guys heard him here when he came here. He came here and spoke. Yeah, well, in one of his talks, he's like, what should you do if you have a food craving? Should you trust it or not? And that is a tricky matter, because a lot of food cravings are coming from a bad place. So one of my teachers said, if you crave something, tamp it down, just watch it. If you crave it the second day, watch it a little more. If you crave it the third day, eat it. So I think with picking your fruits and veggies, you're going to have to, and if my experience is any guide on this, the healthier you eat, the better your intuition is about what you need to eat. And the more unhealthy you've been eating in the recent past, the less you can trust your own instincts and your own cravings. So it's this ironic thing, like banks won't loan you money unless you have money. Well, your body won't really tell you what you need unless you eat well enough for it to tell you what you need. The rest of the time, you're just going to crave the quick fix, which won't be the right thing for the long term. Yes?
I'm assuming wine is out.
I think wine would be out. It's not fresh and it's sweet.
But if you have to have it, in a social event, you have to have it. Just a little bit. Would you recommend white or red? Again,
I don't know. I have not a clue. I wish I could help you. I mean, I think red, if I had, my gut says red because it seems less, but then when I drink red wine, I'm always drinking a Merlot, which is not a very sweet wine, whereas the white wines can be very sweet. So, but just hold it to a couple of sips. Yeah, you have to drink. I want to hear about this. I'm in the wrong line of work.
Friend's 40th birthday. What am I gonna do?
Oh, yeah. So there was something else. Raw risks, cooling. I want to just check my list here. All right, exceptions. I think we've talked about this. Not everyone can do raw food. If you look on the website, there's a little section in the recipe, down below the recipes, about FODMAPs. FODMAPs are a whole set of foods, including fruits and vegetables, that scientific studies have found to be irritating for people with irritable bowel syndrome. And not every food on the FODMAP list is irritating to every person with Crohn's disease or colitis or irritable bowel syndrome or one of those things, but some of the foods are. And this whole thing about FODMAPs is a fancy name for a bunch of chemical words, and I'm not even going to go there because I'm not a chemist and I'll botch all the pronunciations. But it came from Monash University in Australia, and I have extremely sensitive digestion. If I eat things that don't agree with me, I pay for it. And that's one reason I can stick to any eating regimen is I think Dora is the same way. If we cheat, we pay. So it's a very simple system. So the FODMAPs I mentioned because for people who've never tried this and aren't used to eating a lot of vegetables, if you're having trouble, the first thing you might try is to eliminate those FODMAP things. And there's some really common vegetables like onions and garlic apparently are the worst. So you would, apples. Yeah, some really common things. So you'll want to look into those if you find you're having trouble but you don't want to give up.
Could I just say what
Sure.
it feels like?
Yeah.
Because I do have this issue. a FODMAP is a fermentable disaccharide and polyols. So it's the effect that you have is bloating.
Yeah.
It makes the gut hold more fluid. And so bizarre things like you can only have limited avocado on it, apples, pears, as you said, onions, garlic, things that seem like really healthy foods. But in the sensitive person, you're going to bloat. So I'm going to say probably, given that our program is all about how you feel as data, learn to read your own signals. If you don't have a bloating response to the food, you're probably not sensitive to the FODMAP foods. But if you do have a bloating reaction to it, then I would go to the Monash website and look up what
Right.
the list of FODMAP foods is
Yeah.
to avoid them.
Actually, yeah, Monash website you have to pay, but they have an app for your phone, which I actually paid for. It's like $4 to $5, and it's actually worth it just to read all about FODMAPs. And then when you're in the grocery store, you have the little list. You can thumb through it and see whether kale is on the list or not. Kale is FODMAP free, so you're good on kale. Although someone already...
But you have much cabbage.
That's right. So anyway, if you do have the bloating problem, check out the FODMAPs. And Anthony Williams, he makes a number of really unorthodox claims, one of which I mentioned in the book review about spinach. I've always read and heard that spinach is okay cooked, because that removes the oxalic acid, but not okay raw. He says, no, science has it wrong. It's okay for you raw, not cooked. I don't know. I mean, when Denny Waxman was giving his talk here, someone asked him, Denny, should we eat water with lemon juice? And Denny said, absolutely not.
Right.
He loves water with lemon juice. I just laughed at these
Right,
contradictions.
The experts all disagree with one another.
Yes.
What were you saying, FOG? Is that F-O-G-G?
Yeah, no, it stands for, I'm going to read it. Okay, forgive me. Chemists, forgive me. Fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. That's what it stands for, FODMAP. If anybody wants to look at this thing, I'll pass this around. You can look at the FODMAP chart. Anyway, I think I am about done. We'll take questions.
So the shopping list you put together is wonderful, and that's enough to get us through the 2 or 3 days?
That'll get you through one day for sure, and you'll have some leftovers.
Okay.
I nearly always have all that stuff on hand anyway. I must be doing something wrong or right. But I live 2 blocks from Whole Earth. I'm utterly spoiled. If I had to buy these things, I mean, you know, forgive me for talking about a brand, but ShopRite is not going to cut it for a vegan cleanse. Their produce department is probably not going to have enough organic vegetables. Even Whole Foods might not have all of these things organic. Whole Earth should have everything on this list, and Whole Foods will have most of it.
Pat, can
Yes.
I ask you to repeat the questions?
Oh, yes.
You're the only person in my industry, so.
Would you repeat the question?
Yeah, I asked
We'll just move on, but.
Okay.
What should we pay attention to when we get out of the cleansing?
Oh, what should we pay attention to when we get out of the cleansing? There is a section here on ending the cleanse. I like the way, this is almost directly Anthony Williams' words. Try not to go right out for a meat lover's pizza right away or devour a whole chocolate cake. Instead, gradually reintroduce cooked vegetables, beans, lean protein, a little more fat, or healthy grains. You're not going to want to just, I mean, if this works for you and you make it for some period of time, you're not going to really want to eat those things. And if you return to eating them too quickly, you may undo the good you've done. So the trick here is to go gradually and do an add-in process. And I wanted to mention one other thing related to this. Before the cleanse start is a good time to pay attention to your bodily habits. Now, you'd think we all know our bodily habits, but things like, how often do you pee during the night? Do you sleep? How do you feel? Are you bloated? Do you have energy? Do you collapse in the late afternoon? I mean, kind of look at your patterns. Keep a food diary even.
And share it on the Facebook private group, right? Because other people are going to
Yeah.
benefit from your candor, and you will benefit from the candor of the people that are also
I mean,
dealing with these issues.
my counselors tried to get me to keep a food diary for years, and I couldn't do it. Snap pictures of your meals. That's your food diary. And then if you're bloated tomorrow afternoon, you have a record. And if you want to, you can share the record on Facebook. But at least, I mean, this is I just take, in fact, my friends think I'm a terror because I'm constantly posting photographs of my food, and they don't know my reasoning. The reason I post photographs of my foods is that almost everyone in my acquaintance, especially on Facebook, are meat eaters, and I wish they would consider vegetarianism, and I don't want to preach to them, so I just post my food. And I found friends that way. Some of my high school friends from like 60 years ago are coming back and saying, oh, I noticed your pictures. And others are like, I unfollowed you because of your boring pictures. So, but anyway, start now. This is Thursday. We have 3 days to watch your own bodily habits if you aren't already in the habit of. Now, things like, when do you eliminate? You know, how does your elimination smell? People don't talk about this, but, you know, bears smell other bears, cats smell, you know, they scratch on things, and then the other cats come and they can tell how old the cat is and what kind of health it's in. How your elimination smells tells you something. You know, if you eat a lot of asparagus, guess where you'll smell it? In your pee. It'll smell differently. That's, that was the revelation to me. So start paying attention, and during your cleanse, don't just pay attention during your cleanse. This is a really good health habit to form. Yes.
Does he say anything about nightshades affecting arthritis or anything like tomatoes?
He loves nightshades. I had not eaten a tomato or a fruit in years until I read this book. He actually has a whole chapter on fear of fruit, which macrobiotics, especially for people with my condition, because I cured asthma. Asthma was one of the worst problems that I had. I completely cleared it up, got off all those medications by eating well. And during that phase, when I had the asthma, nothing with sugar, nothing cold, all cooked food, blah, blah, blah. And so having had that success, it took a lot for me to come around to trying fruit again.
I haven't had a flare in a long time, so I'm not sure I want to go back to doing the tomatoes or anything like that.
Oh, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
I just wondered what he said about
He doesn't address them. In fact, in his, I urge you to come look at these books, by the way. In his second book, which is Beautiful Recipes, I'll just show you one of my favorites. One of my favorites is the mango lassi. He has recipes with tomatoes. And tomatoes, I don't think I remember him mentioning bell peppers in here, but I haven't read every single recipe. These recipes are simple, and this is just mangoes, a little bit of coconut juice, and a banana. And you blend it up, and you put a little smidgen of cardamom on it and a mint leaf, and it smells so good, and it tastes so good. Barbara, you had it the other day. This is a classic recipe, and this is just a great recipe book. So even if you think he's full of hooey in every other way, as a vegetarian recipe book, you can't go wrong with this, because there's some real winners in it. But I think you'll find him amusing.
We had one more question over
Yes.
there.
I just had a random diet question. So in the smoothies, I noticed can we add, if we make our own cashew milk or nut milk, can we add that, or nuts and legumes kind of out of this diet?
It's up to you. But nuts and legumes do have oil in them. Ideally, they're out of it.
For 2 or 3 days.
For 2 or 3 days. But if you find yourself wanting them, I think it's up to your individual judgment. You could do far worse, especially if you're making those things yourself. Now, if you're buying them, even the best quality products probably have some additives in them to affect the texture.
It's only 3 days.
It's only 3 days.
Lamb chops the whole time, so cashew sounds pretty
Yeah, if you went 3 days and did nothing but drink water, if you went a week and did nothing but drink water, you're not going to harm your health. And there's nothing proposed in this that's going to harm you unless you're having a reaction to one of those foods, which some people do. Like right now, my face is breaking out. I hate to call attention to it, but I normally have skin nearly as good as Doors, and it distresses me because I'm not sure why it's breaking out. So this happens, right?
You need to do the cleansing.
Yeah, I need to do the cleansing. And if it breaks out more in the cleanse, then that's information for me. That's data, as she would say, data. She says potato, I say patat, whatever. Anyway, thank you very much for coming out.
And if any of the newcomers are now convinced that you want to stay connected to the suppers programs, Barbara and Pat run Macrobiotic. I run the vegan meetings and also a lot of paleo meetings. We have 30 to 40 events per month, mostly in central New Jersey.
We'd love to have
We're
you join
cooking
us.
together, eating together, doing educational processes and activities like this. So get on our email lists and join us. We'd love to have you.
Yes.
Thank you.